You walk into the room and something feels different. Can't put your finger on it, but the vibe has shifted. She's looking at her phone more than she looks at you. Conversations feel forced, and when you bring up that gut feeling, she makes you feel like you're losing your mind. Here's the thing, your instincts aren't broken. They're trying to save you. This isn't about becoming some paranoid detective in your own relationship. It's about recognizing patterns that have been playing out for thousands of years. Because when a woman's loyalty starts shifting, she doesn't announce it with fireworks. She leaves breadcrumbs, small ones at first, then bigger ones. And if you miss them, you're the guy everyone feels sorry for later. Today, we're breaking down the real signs, not the obvious stuff like lipstick on the collar. The subtle psychological shifts that happen weeks or months before anything physical goes down. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are documented behavioral patterns that repeat themselves across cultures, generations, and relationship types. And more than just spotting the signs, you're going to learn how to respond with strength instead of desperation. How to maintain your center when everything around you starts feeling unstable. How to make decisions based on what you observe, not what you hope. If you're tired of feeling confused in your own relationship, if you're done second-guessing your own perceptions, then you're in the right place. Let's cut through the noise and get to the truth. When a woman's heart starts pointing somewhere else, you don't need a private investigator to figure it out. You feel it in how she moves through space when you're together. She's physically there, but her energy is somewhere else entirely. Like she's on autopilot with you, while her real self is engaged elsewhere. It shows up in small ways. She used to turn towards you when you talked. Now she keeps scrolling. You used to catch her looking at you across the room with that little smile. Now her eyes are always somewhere else. Even when she's responding to you, it feels like she's doing it out of obligation rather than genuine interest. This isn't about having bad days or being distracted by work stress. This is a fundamental shift in how she shows up in your presence. The woman who used to be fully engaged now feels like she's just going through the motions. Here's what most guys do wrong. They try to win back her attention through grand gestures or increased effort. They start performing, hoping to recapture whatever they think they lost. But here's the truth. When someone's emotional GPS is redirected, you can't force them to recalibrate by being more entertaining. You can only observe the change and decide how you want to respond to it. The strong move: don't chase her energy. Ground yourself in your own routine and watch what she does with the space you give her. Because if her attention is genuinely elsewhere, that space will get filled pretty quickly, and you'll have your answer without having to ask for it. Pay attention to this shift early. Don't wait until you've exhausted yourself trying to win back something that was already gone. When someone's presence changes, everything else is about to change too. Ask her where she went for lunch and suddenly you're the FBI. Who are you with becomes, why don't you trust me? How was your night out? Turns into, you're being controlling. This defense mechanism kicks in when someone has something to protect. And what they're protecting isn't always another person. Sometimes it's just the space they've created to explore possibilities that don't include you. When someone has nothing to hide, basic curiosity feels normal to them. They answer without thinking about it, because there's nothing to think about. But when someone's building walls, every question feels like an attack on those walls. Watch how this plays out. You ask something you've asked 100 times before with no drama. Suddenly her whole tone shifts. She gets annoyed, defensive, or starts questioning why you're asking. The conversation becomes about your behavior instead of her answer. This script flip is genius, actually. By making you the problem for asking, she never has to deal with why the question bothers her so much. You end up apologizing for being curious about someone you're supposed to be close to. The strong response: don't take the bait. Don't start defending your right to ask basic questions. Don't apologize for being engaged in her life. Just note the change and file it away. Because here's what that defensiveness tells you. She's operating in protection mode now. Something exists that she doesn't want you to know about. Maybe it's another person. Maybe it's just thoughts she's having. Either way, the wall is up. And once someone builds walls against you, they're not trying to let you in. They're trying to keep you out. Remember when her phone was just another object? Now it's treated like it contains government secrets. Always face down, always close by, always password protected, like she's guarding nuclear codes. This shift from open to secretive doesn't happen randomly. It happens when the phone starts containing things she doesn't want you to see. Not necessarily evidence of cheating, but evidence of emotional energy being directed somewhere you're not welcome. Modern affairs don't start in hotel rooms. They start in text threads that feel harmless, in DMS that are just friendly, in conversations that gradually cross lines so slowly that each step feels innocent. And when a woman starts having these conversations, her phone transforms from communication device to liability. So she protects it, takes it everywhere, gets jumpy when you're near it, creates elaborate privacy routines that didn't exist before. Watch for the pattern changes. She used to share funny texts with you. Now everything stays private. She used to leave her phone lying around. Now it's always in her hand or her pocket. She used to respond to messages in front of you. Now she waits until you're not around. Here's what you don't do. Don't start trying to sneak looks at her phone. Don't demand passwords or transparency. Don't become a detective in your own relationship. Instead, notice the shift and understand what it means. When someone goes from open to secretive, they're protecting something. The question isn't what they're protecting. The question is whether you want to be with someone who needs to protect things from you. A woman who's genuinely invested in you doesn't need to build digital fortresses. She naturally includes you in her world because including you feels good to her. When that inclusion stops, so has something else. Bring up anything that feels off, and watch how quickly the conversation becomes about what's wrong with you for noticing. You're too sensitive. You're being paranoid. You're creating problems where none exist. This is advanced level manipulation because it works so well. Instead of addressing your concerns, she attacks your right to have them. Instead of explaining her behavior, she makes your observation of it into a personality defect. The genius is in how it makes you question your own perceptions. You start wondering if maybe you're being too sensitive. Maybe you are imagining things. Maybe you are the problem. But here's the truth. When someone consistently turns your valid concerns into attacks on your character, they're not trying to reassure you. They're trying to train you to stop noticing things. Because if you stop noticing, you stop asking questions. And if you stop asking questions, they can operate without interference. Watch how this plays out in real time. You say, "We don't talk like we used to." She says, "You're always looking for problems." You say, "You seem distant lately." She says, "You're being needy." Notice how your observation gets translated into a character judgment. That's not healthy communication. That's deflection with a side of gaslighting. The strong move is to stay grounded in what you're actually experiencing. Don't let someone convince you that your perceptions are wrong just because those perceptions are inconvenient for them. Your job isn't to be the perfect unobservant boyfriend who never notices anything. Your job is to stay aware and make decisions based on what you see, not what you're told you should see. Her compliments start feeling scripted. Her affection feels calculated. The spontaneous warmth that used to happen naturally now only shows up at strategic moments. This is what happens when someone goes into relationship maintenance mode instead of relationship enjoyment mode. They're no longer expressing genuine feelings. They're managing your feelings to maintain a certain dynamic. You can feel the difference immediately. Genuine affection has a lightness to it. It happens because she wants to express something she's feeling. Performed affection has weight to it. It happens because she wants to accomplish something. The performed version often comes with an agenda. She's extra sweet before asking for something. She's suddenly affectionate after you've expressed concern. She uses physical touch to end conversations rather than continue them. When someone starts performing their role instead of living it, they're already emotionally checked out. They're going through the motions to maintain the structure while their authentic self is engaged elsewhere. This pattern is particularly brutal because it gives you just enough positive reinforcement to keep hoping things will return to normal. But performed affection isn't a preview of authentic reconnection. It's often the final stage before complete withdrawal. Pay attention to how affection feels, not just whether it's happening. Genuine warmth energizes you. Performed warmth drains you because some part of you recognizes the artificiality even when you can't name it. Plans. you used to make together now get vague responses. Conversations about next month, next season, next year start getting redirected to next week at most. The future that once included both of you now feels uncertain. This isn't about being spontaneous or living in the moment. This is about emotional investment. When someone sees you as part of their future, they naturally bring you into their planning. When they don't, they avoid making any plans that lock them into a path with you. The shift is subtle but unmistakable. She used to talk about the vacation you'd take next summer. Now summer feels too far away to think about. She used to plan ahead for holidays and events. Now everything is maybe we'll see. This future avoidance reveals her internal reality. If she's not including you in her vision of what's coming, it's because her vision of what's coming doesn't include you. Most guys try to fix this by pushing harder for commitment to future plans. They bring up trips, events, milestones, trying to recreate the forward-thinking dynamic they remember. But you can't force someone to want a future with you. You can only observe whether they do or don't, and make your decisions accordingly. When someone stops planning with you, they're telling you something important about where their heart is headed. Listen to that message instead of trying to change it. Suddenly, she's hitting the gym harder, dressing differently, changing her style in ways that feel disconnected from anything happening in your relationship. The transformation isn't something you're part of. It's something you're watching from the outside. Self-improvement is great, but when someone starts a major personal overhaul without including you in the process, it often means the improvement isn't designed for your relationship. Watch how she approaches these changes. Does she ask your opinion? Does she include you in decisions? Does she seem excited to share the journey with you? Or does it all feel private, strategic, and somehow separate from the life you're building together? When a woman is emotionally connected to you, her growth feels like something you're both part of. She wants to look good for you, wants your input, wants to share the results with you. But when she's preparing for a different life, the transformation becomes more about creating a new version of herself for audiences you're not part of. The motivation behind the change matters more than the change itself. Is she becoming a better version of herself within your relationship? Or is she becoming a different version of herself for something outside your relationship? The answer usually becomes clear pretty quickly based on how included you feel in the process. The evening hours that used to be your connection time now feel empty. No more late-night texts, calls, or conversations. The woman who used to wind down her day with you now winds down alone. This timing matters because evening is when people connect with what's most important to them. It's when the day's distractions fade and authentic priorities emerge. When someone stops making evening time for you, they're making evening time for something else. Maybe it's another person. Maybe it's just the space to think about other possibilities. Either way, you're not the priority anymore. Watch the pattern changes. She used to call you before bed. Now she's too tired. She used to text throughout the evening. Now she goes quiet after a certain time. She used to share how her day ended. Now you have to guess. This evening withdrawal creates exactly the kind of space where inappropriate connections flourish. Not because she planned it that way, but because that's when alternative relationships naturally develop. The strong response isn't to demand evening attention or try to fill the space she's created. It's to notice the shift and understand what it means. When someone stops wanting to end their day with you, they're already ending something else. Share good news and watch her reaction carefully. Is she genuinely excited for you? Or does your success seem to create some kind of internal tension for her? When someone is truly invested in your relationship, your victories feel like shared victories. Your growth excites them because it makes the partnership stronger. Your success generates genuine pride because they're part of the team that helped create it. But when someone's emotionally checking out, your success becomes threatening. It reminds them that you're growing beyond their control. It highlights that you have options. It makes leaving you feel riskier because you're becoming more valuable. So they start minimizing your achievements, deflecting conversations about your progress, making subtle comments that undermine your confidence, not celebrating wins that should be celebrated. This pattern reveals a fundamental shift in how she sees the relationship. Instead of wanting to grow together, she's uncomfortable with you growing at all. Pay attention to this dynamic because it tells you everything about where her heart really is. The woman who loves you wants to see you succeed. The woman who's planning to leave you needs you to stay manageable. The final sign is the absence of all signs. No more fighting. No more trying. No more emotional investment of any kind. She's not angry anymore because anger requires caring. She's just done. This indifference is often more devastating than any other sign because it represents complete emotional withdrawal. There's nothing left to work with, nothing left to fight for, nothing left to fix. She doesn't ask about your day because she doesn't care how it went. She doesn't react to changes in your mood because your mood doesn't affect her anymore. She doesn't initiate conversations because there's nothing she wants to discuss with you. This flatline state often comes after months or years of gradual disconnection. By the time she reaches complete indifference, she's already processed the end of the relationship internally. She's already grieved what you had together. She's already moved on emotionally. Most guys try to shock someone out of indifference through dramatic gestures or increased attention. But you can't force someone to care who has already stopped caring. The only response to genuine indifference is acceptance. When someone reaches this point, the relationship is already over. They're just waiting for the logistics to catch up with the emotional reality. These signs don't appear randomly. They follow a predictable sequence that reveals how emotional detachment actually works. It starts with redirected attention. Then comes defensive protection of the new emotional space. Then digital secrecy to maintain that space. Then script flipping to avoid accountability. Then performed rather than genuine interaction. Then future avoidance. Then image transformation. Then evening withdrawal. Then success resentment. And finally, complete indifference. Each stage builds on the previous one, creating a complete picture of someone who's systematically removing themselves from your relationship while still physically present in it. Understanding this progression helps you see where things are headed. Instead of getting caught up in individual incidents, you can observe the overall pattern instead of analyzing each behavior in isolation. The question isn't whether these patterns are fair or whether you deserve better treatment. The question is what you're going to do with the information once you recognize it. Most men waste months or years trying to reverse patterns that can't be reversed. They chase energy that's already been redirected, fight for attention that's already been withdrawn, and negotiate for affection that's already been performed rather than felt. But once someone has emotionally exited your relationship, they're not looking for ways to get back in. They're looking for ways to complete the exit without unnecessary drama. Your strength lies not in preventing her departure, but in recognizing it early enough to maintain your dignity throughout the process. Here's what most guys don't understand about female psychology. When a woman starts displaying these patterns, she's not crying out for more attention or better treatment. She's not testing to see if you'll fight harder for the relationship. She's creating the emotional distance necessary to make leaving feel justified rather than cruel. The woman who becomes defensive about innocent questions isn't hoping you'll stop asking questions. She's hoping the defensiveness will train you to stop noticing things that make her uncomfortable. The woman who withdraws evening communication isn't wanting you to pursue her harder. She's creating space for connections that don't include you. Understanding this distinction is crucial because it determines your entire response strategy. If you think she's testing you, you'll try to pass the test. If you understand she's exiting, you'll focus on maintaining your center during the process. The testing mindset leads to desperation, performance, and gradual loss of self-respect. The exiting mindset leads to observation, acceptance, and strategic decision based on reality rather than hope. This shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of wondering how to win her back, you start wondering whether someone who's systematically withdrawing from you is someone you want back. Instead of trying to prove your worth to someone who's devaluing you, you start protecting your worth from further damage. The psychological trap that destroys most men is believing they can love someone back into loving them. They think increased effort, better behavior, or more accommodation will reverse emotional detachment. But emotional detachment isn't a problem to be solved through relationship techniques. It's a decision that's already been made. When someone's heart has moved on, their body and mind inevitably